Michael. Last name is Jack, Jack. I am the Chief Administrative Officer for the City of Winnipeg.
So how's it going to look starting at 10 o'clock for people coming in here?
Very similar to this. You see the walk-through metal detector behind me. So that's in place, ready to go. You will see some security guards manning that device and the table. And there will be 2 uniformed Winnipeg Police Service officers present. They'll be stationed somewhere close to the entrance. Beyond that, this is the library you know, and this is what it looks like.
Are you confident that people working in here are going to feel pretty good about coming back to work today, and the people who use this facility are going to feel confident coming here?
We're hoping that, yeah. We know not everyone will be. We know there's a real division of opinion about these measures. Some would like us to go further. Some didn't want us to have to come this far.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, that's all right.
The CUPE president said if these in fact are interim measures and the metal detectors are taken down sometime in the future, people who work here won't come back.
You know, we're going to have to work through that. These are interim measures, so he is correct. We really do want to be relying upon expertise here. That's why we have put these in place as interim measures to clearly demonstrate that security needs to be paramount in this interim phase. We are hoping to work through some processes with that expertise, with the hope of being able to use less obvious or less intrusive means going forward.
How long will it take for you to evaluate the interim measures and make a decision about permanent security measures?
So we are expecting the initial set of recommendations from our security consultant within a few weeks. Obviously, it's going to depend what those recommendations are to be able to tell you how long that'll take. We have asked them, though, of course, to make a whole host of recommendations, including items that we can act on very quickly, including items that have anything to do with the layout of the library, the furniture, the amenities included in here. So anything we can act on immediately without needing more budget from council, for instance, we will be acting on. Anything we need to go back to our council and ask for, we'll prepare the necessary material and make that ask if that's something the department's going to be recommending.
How much is this round, like this initial phase, costing the library?
We can get you the exact number. It's in excess of $10,000 a week for sure.
Just to clarify, how is this celebration different since the last time in 2019?
Even the weapons search or the weapons detection is being done differently. You may recall that we last time we had security screeners with wands, and that was the entirety of the detection. Here we've opted for a walk-through detector. We really are only interested in detecting weapons. There is no interest in this interim measure in detecting anything other than weapons, and that's all our security personnel will be instructed to look for.
What about drugs? We had one regular patron who said he has seen drug deals go down here all the time.
I can't speak for that patron. We will have 2 Winnipeg Police Service officers on site. Obviously, if they see an active drug deal, they'll have to respond accordingly. But it won't be the purpose of this front security gate to detect anything other than weapons.
And sorry.
We certainly think this increases the safety. No building can be guaranteed to be safe. We do think these are reasonable measures. We know there were safety concerns, and we know we had to take interim measures to get it reopened.
Are you going to have some kind of blockage on this part leading up to the metal detector? Because it seems really wide open here. Like, is this not the exact layout? Are you going to close that metal door a bit, or?
It's going to be fairly similar to this. This is going to be a work in progress. As you know, today is the first day of the reopening. So both our security personnel and Winnipeg Police Service will determine how wide makes sense. We'd like to have it as wide open as it was before. We think it's certainly a large, welcoming space. However, that was part of the problem in terms of access. So we will have people here right at the entrance actively guiding people through the metal detector. And if that's sufficient, then we'll likely be able to leave it like that.
So the idea is once police are here and the security are here, they would sort of be on this side and guiding people through there. It's not as wide open as it might look.
The upfront security personnel will guide people through the metal detection. The police service officers will be on the inside.
Oh, okay, okay.
Last time these kinds of measures were brought in, there was a significant decrease in the number of visitors to the library. Will that be evaluated as part of the assessment of the security measures?
We'll be recording all of that data. We know this will likely result in a drop in attendance in the first few weeks. We also know it's an interim measure. And so, again, this was, we tried our best to find the balance we needed to get open again, bearing in mind the significant concerns being raised by staff for their own safety coming to work.
What happens if a weapon is found when someone tries to go inside the library?
Yeah, so they'll have a couple of options. They can leave with that weapon if they choose to hang on to it. They can also choose to forfeit it on the spot if they would like, if they still want to enter the library. Those will be the only two options.
Will Millennium hours be shortened at all to sort of balance out the cost of adding this security?
Possibly long term, but that isn't our current plan. In this interim phase, the Millennium Library hours will remain the same.
Okay, so they're the same as they were before the closure at this point?
That's correct.
Okay, but that is one of the thoughts of maybe how to afford it long term? You could be cutting back on hours?
That's not top of mind. We're going to have to go through what our security consultant recommends and see what we need to do. If that's asking for more budget, the best we can do is ask, and council, of course, reigns supreme when it comes to those kinds of decisions. We'll have to manage within the budget that this department has.
Okay, and I know you said $10,000 a week, but we don't know exactly how long these measures are going to be in for. So, is there any kind of cap on that, or any kind of budget you're hoping to keep it under for the added security now?
It won't be sustainable without some changes. If these measures were to continue for any length of time, we would need council supporting that. As you know, we're in the middle of a budget process for 2023, and then we discuss budget for the next 4 years. Again, we're hoping these are interim measures. We will obviously, if we can find low-cost or no-cost measures, those are the ones obviously that are going to be easiest to implement and implement first.
And this is all being covered in the existing library budget right now?
So far, that's
Okay.
right.
Okay. And I guess, are we getting some savings by keeping community connections closed? Is that a piece of the financial?
That had nothing to do with savings. That's only going to be closed again as an interim measure. We are looking very closely at the future of the community connection space. I know a lot of community members really valued that. I'd like to see the day where we're reopening those gates.
Do we have any idea on the timeline on that?
We don't.
Okay.
Is there any conversation about increasing the community connections?
There is some conversation. We've heard voices suggesting that. Everything's on the table right now. I mean, this really is a work in progress. We didn't foresee the tragic death that was going to precipitate closing temporarily like we needed to. So this is all, we're having to conceive these plans as we go. Again, with these interim measures, we are already actively putting thought into what the long-term measures are going to look like, but again, we're going to rely on some security advice for that as well.
Did the city buy the walk-through metal detector?
The city did, yes, correct.
Oh, okay, okay. And how much did that cost?
It was approximately $6,000.
Okay. Is there another use for it if it ends up not being a permanent fixture here?
I'm sure someone can use it. If
could sell it, I guess.
I'd love to see us able to put processes in place where we're able to get rid of that unit, honestly, and we could see where else it might be required.
Okay. So, as you reopen just today, if for some reason there are still a lot of security incidents, it's still kind of the same condition as it was before, I'm not sure what conditions that would be exactly, but if there's still a lot of concerns, could we see even further security ramped up? Like, is this being assessed every day, and that's a possibility too?
We will have to assess every day, absolutely. We're going to go as far as we reasonably need to ensure the safety of our staff that work here and library users. I'm really hopeful we don't have to go beyond these measures, but safety has to be paramount here.
And I guess, are we doing public consultation rounds on this soon as a city, or?
We are actively engaging with the stakeholders that the library would normally engage with. There's a community working group on this, involves a lot of a range of voices in this discussion. That is going to continue. So yes, we are actively engaging in those discussions.
Is there going to be like a broader survey just with the whole community to see what people are thinking about it?
I don't know if there's going to be a broader survey. Just over the weekend, we did a survey of all library staff about their perceptions of safety in their workplace. But something going out to all of Winnipeg, for instance, I don't think that's contemplated. I think that direct or more targeted engagement with stakeholders, with interested community members and community groups is likely the best.
I know you're gonna, there was, in the past, the debate about security measures, these kinds of scanners. Some people saying, they didn't want them to come back, others say they wanted them to come back. I know for various groups, there's the accessibility element that they're worried about. For the library, how is that taken into consideration?
It is a significant priority, absolutely. Nobody who works for this library is happy about any reduction in access for library users. And that goes for me as well. I can tell you that clearly. That sometimes gets lost in the discussion. And thankfully that's why this is an interim measure. So some may perceive that this is a less welcoming space in the interim. But we're going to try to work through as thoughtfully as we can to achieve a balance that makes sense for the community. I don't think the interim measures are the right long-term balance, and I'm hoping with some more thoughtful measures in place we can get there.
Are there any security measures being contemplated at other city libraries?
Security is something that gets actively looked at all city facilities. So it would be fair to say that's a point of discussion in most workplaces, especially where we welcome in members of the public. These types of measures, though, this is not being actively considered at any other location at the moment.
How soon potentially could we see the removal of this?
Well, we're going to get recommendations back from our security consultant in a few weeks, and it's really going to depend what we see then. So I really can't give you a timeline because I don't know what that advice is going to be, and I don't immediately know how quickly we're going to be able to act on those recommendations.
I think when we spoke last week, you said those were the preliminary recommendations. So final report, do you have a target deadline for that? No, that'll depend honestly on the first body of work. So we're going to see what we get. And if we get a sufficient analysis and recommendations in a few weeks, that may be enough to enable us to go from there. Have you gotten a lot of feedback on this? Like, are you getting, because obviously there's advocacy groups on both sides, right? So they're going to have a very specific and probably a loud voice in the whole thing. But when you hear from the public and emails going to counselors, is there a gist of people thinking this is needed and justified, or is this getting backlash? What's the overall sentiment, do you think?
It's a mix. I will say I have heard from a number of people who understand exactly why we need to do this. I don't know if people are necessarily supportive of it, more so understanding that it's required, at least in the interim while we sort out what the future is going to look like here. Great. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.